He had met you at was it a particular crime?
Yes, there was. It was a funeral for one of the members of the Hutch family, and this is just. I was very green as a journalist at the time. Now he tells the story quite differently, but basically it was on Sean McDermott Street in North Inner City, was where the funeral was on. I was sent down to cover it. We were told it would be a ring of steel, is what the terminology is. That the Gardaí would have a huge presence there to make sure that nothing went wrong at this. Walked down through it. There was no visible Garda presence. There were like unmarked squad cars going past, all that sort of stuff. But all of us journalists kept on walking and are driving down just to try and get to a sort of a distance, a respectable distance. So a couple of us sort of huddled up at the end of the road, and we were just there, and we were sort of saying, well, what do we do here? This is a very difficult thing to actually cover, because you do have to cover it. This is an important event in the North Inner City at a time when there is a turf war, effectively, in Dublin.
And there's also that balance, I think, as well, between it being a family grieving as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be respectful.
Yeah, and it's someone's child, you know, at the end of the day.
Exactly. You have to be respectful of that. That's why distance is important. Dignity and respect is also important for these things. So we were all just, a few of us were down a good distance away from where the funeral was. And I remember the car pulled up that Mick O'Toole himself was in. And I remember he got out of the car and he started looking down towards us. And I was like, I reckon that's Mick O'Toole, that is. And I sort of, after a while of that sort of thing where you're just staring at somebody who's staring back at you and you're like, I wonder if he's looking at me. And I sort of did the upwards head nod thing of recognition, and he just immediately turned around. This is not Mick's version of the story, by the way.
Can I,
like he came over and talked,
Mick O'Toole, Gavan, said that Richard completely blew his cover at this massive crime funeral. He was trying to be incognito, and Richard was roaring, hiya, Mick. And
didn't do that. Absolutely
that's
didn't
his version of events. But
basically what happened was...
Richard's a terror for just shouting out at people on the street and just going, hell yeah, I'm Richard Chambers, just to completely blow any incognito there. Always at it.
But whatever, the outcome of the story is exactly the same anyway, in that he turned around and he just went off and away, and I just saw a little text on my phone like a minute or two later saying, you don't know me, from Mick O'Toole, which is that's really how you have to do it. So Mick is an absolute pro at these things. He's a phenomenal guy. I'm sure we'll get him back on the pod at some time.
Bye.